It's time again for another top 10, which is insane. Now, this is only my third top 10. Top 10, like not just like top 10 solo Arkham Investigators or top 10 true solo spirits. I've done probably 8 or 9 top 10s at this point, right? We had the top 10 questions for Mrs. Playthroughs, which is super fun. Really have to get Sarah back on the channel at some point. Really enjoyed that time. But the top 10, like my top games, this is the one, right? And it's only the third time I'm doing this, but no joke. Once I finish one year, I start thinking about the next year immediately. And all year long, there I am, like trying to figure out what my rankings look like and learning new games as I have for the channel. I've learned a ton of new games in this last year. This list has a ton of new content. And literally, I couldn't do a top 10 because there were too many new games. Plus, like at the top, I mean, there's not that much suspense anymore at this point. If you've watched my channel at all, you probably can predict the top 3. After that gets a little fuzzy. But so I'm going to do the top 24. Why not 20? I don't know. 24 is better. Why not 25? I don't know. 24 is better for me. When I looked at my list, it just made sense. And besides, there are 24 spirits in Spirit Island, at least from the officially released products. So maybe that's a sign of what number 1 is. I don't know. We'll get to it eventually because we got 23 before number 1 and it's going to be super awesome. Some caveats. Look, my list, my opinion, blah, blah, blah. I'm not trying to rain on anybody's parade. If your favorite game is not on this list, it is what it is, dude. I'm not even sorry. It's just whatever. However, if there's a game you think I'm missing that I would really love, put that in the comment section below. Last year, I found out about a couple of games, at least a couple of games from comments on my top 10 video last year that I picked up and I played over the last year. I'm like, yep, that's now on the top 24. Would they have made my top 10? I don't know, but they're going to be in the top 24 and you'll see how that falls a little bit. And I'll probably mention that. So I don't want to belabor this too much. Let's get into it. Number 24. Okay, I jumped the gun. I can't get into it just yet. I do need to say one more thing. So for me, when I think about what makes a top game, it's really like, what do I want to play right now? When time's not an issue and I can just play games, like this is pretty much the order of games that I want to play, with the higher games on the list being the ones I want to play more often than the ones that are lower than it. That's pretty common sense. So these are the games that are capturing my imagination right now. These are the games that I want to explore more. These are the games that I've explored a ton and they keep me coming back because I just love some of the things that they do. All right. So this is a snapshot in time, top 24, 2022 solo playthroughs. Let's get to it for real this time. Number 24 is Scythe. Now, Scythe had been on my prior 2 top 10, so 24 is quite the fall for this guy. It's just how life goes. Scythe was where I started my solo journey. I said that in both the previous top 10s. This was the first game I really sank my teeth into from a solo perspective, and I loved it. No regrets there. But the reality is that I played it so much solo that my friends rarely want to play it with me anymore, so it just doesn't get to the table very often. The puzzle's cool, but you know, it is what it is. Like, all right, I'll get my 6 stars. It's going to be pretty close at the levels I play at. And I really like the Automa system, but there are other games that just have Automa systems that are just better to me and more fun to me and more engaging to me and more of a challenge and deeper and all of it. So Scythe, obviously great game. It's just no longer the game it once was for me, but number 24 on this list. Number 23, Street Masters. So this is a weird inclusion on my list because I like this game and I really want to like it so much more. And I really feel like I should like it so much more, but it's just kind of like hovering there for me. So I want to play it more. I need to explore more. I do have a video of a playthrough I recorded for Street Masters that should be on the channel pretty soon. So look out for that in the next month or so. But there's something about this game that hasn't come together for me now. But I do like a lot of what it does. I find it interesting. I find it engaging. I just feel like there's something missing, but that might change. But obviously, this is still an excellent game. It did make me realize that Sentinels of the Multiverse and I really aren't friends anymore because this game just does what Sentinels does and it just does it better. So I have like moved on from Sentinels and now I'm engaging with this. And at the end of the day, it might just be this modular deck kind of thing just isn't for me. But for now, when I want to play games, this is still a game that has my attention in a pretty big way. So number 23, Street Masters. Number 22, Aeon's End. Now, Aeon's End was number 7 in my 2021 list. So obviously quite the fall off for me. I like it. It's a great deck builder. I like the market. It's one of those games that has so much freaking content out there that I'm just like, I have all of wave one. I have all of wave two. I haven't felt the urge to go beyond that, but it does mean that since I'm not getting the latest and greatest, like there's only so much I can do with Aeon's End on the channel. And that does drive how much I play games. If it's something that I can really get on the channel, like it's a lot of views, I'm more likely to put it on the channel. It's just common sense. I enjoy it more that way, and things are happening and there's excitement about the game. Aeon's End, it's fine. Wave one and wave two are very good. If you like deck builders and you like cooperative games, I don't think there's another place that you should go but Aeon's End. The solo mode is really tight. It definitely is a super hard challenge to play this solo by the original rules. I never two-handed this solo. I do still occasionally play it with Mrs. Playthroughs, although she's kind of still wants to go back to Dominion or Clank. She loves deck builder games, but really loves kicking my ass as a part of that. So, you know, Aeon's End is kind of just sitting there on the shelf a little bit, gathering some dust, but I will enjoy bringing it out from time to time, getting that quick gameplay in, setting that market up. The more expansions you have, setup does become a little bit more of a drag, but the randomizers kind of help that, and you just kind of throw something out there and see what works. But look, there's some really cool combos in this game. I love the variety of mages. I really, really love the variety of the nameless, although they all have names, which still makes no sense to me, but but I digress. It is what it is. One day I'll get over it. That day is not today, and one day Aeon's End might not be in my top games list, but that day is also not today, because here it is sitting at number 22. Number 21, Imperium Legends. I guess you're seeing the kind of a theme in the bottom part of this list where it's like all these like deck driven games, like these deck builders, and the modular deck game of Street Masters. Look, I don't know. There's a lot that can happen with those mechanics. They're great. They just don't sing to me like the games at the top of this list do. But Imperium Legends is a fantastic experience. There was definitely a time where I was like texting my friends. I was like, yeah, it's good. Is it fun? I'm not sure. I'll get back to you. And it's fun. It's fun when you know what's going on. The rule book is awful as advertised. And I kid you not, like some of the choices they made, it was almost like a clinic in how to not be player friendly. The way the box came, the insert was absolutely garbage. Some of the choices they made with the tokens are just mind-blowingly weird. And I don't understand some other parts of the production. However, the game itself is solid. I think it was Mike Delisio that said like, hey, this is a deck builder that doesn't feel like a deck builder. That resonates with me a lot. There's something very, very cool about this. I still have several factions to explore with it. I am not going to be getting the Imperium Classics box. The Legends box, all I need. It has the most complicated factions. It has the most interesting factions from everything I've read, and I'm good with that. Again, there's 8 factions. There's 8 Atomas. It's great. I'm going to be getting this on the channel soon. Super, super excited about it. So if it wasn't there already, Imperium Legends is definitely a game for you to check out and put on your radar. And here it is at number 21. Number 20 is Pavlov's House, which is designed by David Thompson and was sent to me by DVG Games, Dan Bierson Games, as a review copy. Still really appreciate them sending me that review copy. I got it on the channel a couple of times and I really, really liked it. At this point in my gaming life, I don't keep every game I like. I just can't. I live in a row home in a city. My basement is what it is. You can see the back wall. I got a shelf of games there. I got a table filled with games. I got a table over there with games stacked on it. I got another shelf over there. I don't have enough room to keep all these games. And I am getting rid of games that I like and I think are good. And Pavlov's House was one of those games that I just knew I was not going to get it to the table much at all, with everything else clamoring for table time and other games that I felt I wanted to explore more. Something I'll say now is that for me, some games are just like a great book that I really enjoyed, but I'm not going to read it again because I already read it. Maybe I'll see the movie when it comes out. And Pavlov's House is one of those for me. It was super great to really experience that, to see the powers that was there, but I kind of felt like I had gone as far with that game as I wanted to, and I'll always have my playthroughs to go back on and check them out. Maybe I'll reacquire it down the road. What a really cool game. The history in there is really cool. The gameplay is really smooth, and some of the moments that that game creates were without question top-notch as a gaming experience. So number 20, Pavlov's House. Number 19, Space Hulk Death Angel. And this little game, I mean, it's my new travel buddy, that's for sure. Every time I go on a trip, I'm going to be throwing this in the suitcase because it's just easy to throw in there. It's a quick enough game that if I'm up later than everybody else and I want to get my gaming itch in, here we go. I got Death Angel, the card game. Now, look, if you're going to buy this, it's hard to find, and don't do what I did and buy the Italian version from overseas, because that was a giant nightmare to return and was not a good financial choice. But I was lucky to get a secondhand copy of BGG. This game is definitely overpriced for what it is. That is without question. But if you're interested and it's worth it to you, great. I don't have any affinity to the Warhammer IP, and I still really, really like this game. I like the puzzles. When I play this game now, I am playing with more and more Space Marines and acting like I am more and more people so I can experience more of the locations in the base game. I will not be hunting down the expansions for this game. They are insanely priced for about 12 cards. No, we're good. So it's not that game where I need everything for it. But what this game is, the little puzzle that it presents, yeah, it's a die roller. You're going to get unlucky sometimes. It is what it is. It can be super frustrating, but it will make you feel alive. So I really like what this game does. I like having to get your Marines in the right place so we can attack the right Gene Stealers, and the powers of the various Marines that really come to fruition over the course of a game are super, super cool. And now, as I'm seeing new locations and a wider variety of locations at higher player counts, the replayability is really, really nice. What a cool little idea. I love seeing these small box games with these really streamlined ideas as a nice change of pace from these giant behemoths that we're normally playing. It is nice to have something like Space Hulk, Death Angel to throw on the table in between those games, right? So here we go. Number 19, Space Hulk, Death Angel. Number 18 is Cthulhu, Death May Die. Yeah, it is. Oh my gosh, I just adore this game. And I just wish it was harder. And if it was harder, I'd probably play it more, because I would feel this urge for a challenge, because it doesn't scratch that part of me which just wants to feel like I'm going in for a challenge every time, because I just find that this game isn't hard enough for me. I mean, it's still a dice roller. You can still get super unlucky and things can happen, but there's a little bit of like, all right, you know what the scenario is, you know what you need to do. Yeah, you're going to find some loot the first time you go through things that you don't know were there, and there's crazy things that can happen, and that event deck can be brutal, and some of the old ones are harder than the others, and it's great, and I like the variety. But for the most part, you're going to win more often than not if you're used to heavier games, for sure. But what this game does is just really, really fun. It's really, really nice. It did nothing on this channel. I put 2 videos up. They both bombed. So the tribe has spoken. I get it. You don't want any more Cthulhu Death May Die videos. It's fine. I have other things I can feature, and I will just play this one on my own. But a cool game. Love the minis. Love the table presence. This is really what I wanted Mansions of Madness to be. That game did not work for me at all. But you give me those minis. You give me a cool map. You give me a nice little puzzle that I can engage with and figure out how to win each scenario. And you give me a freaking giant monster that I can kill by chucking some dice. And that's a good night for me. Give me some bourbon, give me a beer. We'll call it a day. So Cthulhu Death May Die, sitting there at number 18. Number 17, thank God it's Friday. And if you're watching this, it's probably not Friday, because I'm not going to release this on a Friday. And maybe it is a Friday because you're watching this later. And that's great. And I meant every word. Thank God it is Friday. And thank God for this Friday, because this game is really cool. Another travel companion of mine. Man, just load that puppy up. With Friday, we got some Space Hulk, Death Angel. This is without a doubt the best value on this list. 100%. No argument. The best value. This game is crazy cheap. It's also crazy small. So maybe relative to weight, it's expensive. I don't know. I have to do the math. But a fun game here for sure. Easy to play out. The setup is like instantaneous. It's so quick. And it's just a really nice little deck builder kind of experience. This is definitely going to be one of those books that I'm going to read multiple times, and eventually I might be tired of reading it, but that time is very far from now, especially because I'm going to keep bringing it on vacations until I'm sick of it, and that is going to be a long time from now, I assure you. The way the cards come out and the order they come out really does change up the experience from game to game, and you are going to be challenged every time you play. There are no magic tricks when you're playing this at the highest level. that's recommended in the rulebook. The pirate ships are all different and could force you to have to change strategies a little bit and trying to manage those life points as you go and take on the higher challenges to get more powerful cards in your deck and still thinning your deck as fast as you can, but that's costing you life points. It's just a great little puzzle, and I'm super glad I picked it up. Considering what I've spent on games in the last 2-3 years since I've really taken this deep dive into solo games, it still makes me wonder why it took me so long just to buy this little box. But it did take me a long time. I guess better late than never, because I have really enjoyed kind of diving into Friday, which is just one of those little games that comes up in the solo gaming world a fair amount. So I was glad it was my turn to see what this was all about. Love this little game. It's super cool. Highly recommend it. That's Friday, number 17. Number 16, by far the newest game on this list, Return to Dark Tower. Oof. I like this game a lot. I really do. The early and mid game parts of Return to Dark Tower present a really nice puzzle, and it's super engaging, especially with the Alliance's expansion, which I highly recommend playing with. And playing on gritty mode really ups the difficulty. But woof, the end of this game is such a huge miss for me that to have it where I have it now, I'm still questioning whether I should have it lower. But for now, I'm still exploring the game enough, and I like so much of this game enough. I like the app integration. I like the tower. I like so many of the mechanics. I like the production quality. I like that experience so much, and I'm kind of overlooking the end because I find the final adversary way too easy. I find some of the rules way too game-breakingly exploitable, and yeah, you could house rule stuff, and that's fine, but I don't like house ruling things. I want you to give me a game and at least give me like, hey, if you're playing on easy mode, play this way, playing on standard mode, play this way, if you're playing on hard mode, play this way. Don't make me like have to house rule to make this the game I want it to be. Especially doesn't work on the channel when I'm creating content and I'm trying to teach people how they're supposed to play it, at least as far as the designer and the publisher are concerned. Look, if you all want to house rule your games, that's great. When you're a content creator, it's a little different, right? Because I'm making videos of playthroughs and purportedly knowing how to play the game as it was intended to be played. So this one's a tough one for me. I really, really like so much of it, and I hope that the feedback that is out there, that there is a chance that there will be some fine tuning with the app and maybe a rule set to address some of the things that have been found now that they have data for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of games from everyone playing since they've gotten their copy of Return to Dark Tower. So maybe this ranking is more reflective of what I hope this game continues to develop to become more than what it is in this moment in time. But even with that, what it is at this moment in time is a really, really interesting and unique puzzle. And I have no regrets of getting this game. The ease that you can get this to the table and teach someone, yes, setup could be a bit of a pain. I'm not going to lie. There are definitely worse though. I'll set up Return to Dark Tower a lot quicker than I will a lot of games on this list. It can definitely be a bit involved, but the ease of getting this to the table and teaching people and having some fun nights with friends, it's really, really cool. I just hope they do something to give this game an ending that is as high quality as the rest of the stages of the game. So that's my perhaps too early ranking of Return to Dark Tower and my perhaps too early thoughts on the subject. But this is definitely one of those games that I'm curious to see what, if any, comments we get about this one here on this video. So Return to Dark Tower, it's sitting there for now at number 16. Number 15, Darkest Night 2nd Edition. And speaking of games that feel to me like really, really great books, some of which I'm not sure I'm going to want to read again, this game is kind of there for me. But I adore this game. I adore the level of attention to detail that went into this game. No other game in this basement makes me feel the way that this game makes me feel, because when I'm playing this game, I just feel like I am playing through someone's labor of love, like somebody's life work that to me just oozes out of this game. There's just such a care that went into crafting each one of these cards. And there's so many heroes. There's so many cards for all the heroes. There's so many different blights. There's so many different ways you can arrange the blights that might come out from game to game. There's an insane amount of relics. There's an insane amount of darkness cards. I mean, if you could stick with absolute randomness and you play this game 3 times a day for the rest of your life, I still think it's highly probable that you will not see every card that comes in this box. I know some of the comments on my last Darkest Night video were that some people, they just don't ever shuffle until they get to the end of each of their decks. And that's a really cool idea. It's something that I might actually do myself if I were to go through another stint where I'm playing this game a lot, which I just haven't been playing it a lot in the last few months, but we'll see. I mean, it's on the edge for me of how much I want to keep it, but make no mistake, this is a great game and it was a great experience. This is one of those games that was recommended to me by a patron that I looked into it and thought that this is something I wanted to check out. It falls into that victory point genre. We might see another victory point game later in this video, but we'll leave that for the future. That game that you might see, I can just tell you now, isn't Nemo's War. I still have not gotten my copy of the Nemo's War Ultimate Edition, but I did just get the shipping notification that Nemo's War is on its way soon. So stay tuned for that, maybe for the 2023 list. But for now, we got Darkest Night, 2nd edition. What a great game with a ton to explore and a ton to love. Darkest Night, 2nd edition, number 15. Number 14, I hope you could see that. This is Final Girl. This is the core box. It's really dark, but it's cool. The rest of the boxes have lots of murderous color on them, so that's great. And I do mean murderous color. It's a lot of blood and gore and stuff. But this game's crazy and I really like it. I had never played Hostage Negotiator. When Final Girl hit the social media blitz, it was unbelievable. I cannot remember my personal Facebook and Twitter feeds ever being as full with the game as things were when Final Girl finally got to people's hands. What a crazy, crazy game. And AJ Porforio and Van Ryder Games were kind enough to send me a review copy of the core box, as well as 2 of the 3 feature films that I do own. I have put one on the channel already. I have another one filmed that will be on the channel pretty soon. Lots to explore with this game. In total, there are 10 feature films, so I only own 3 of them. Still a ton more content out there to explore and perhaps get my hands on in the future. And each feature film comes with its own murderer. It comes with a different setting. It comes with 2 Final Girls. The mix and match capability is phenomenal and it's super fun. Every game kind of plays different. Some games just really snowball out of control to your detriment. Sometimes everything goes your way, but the puzzle will change up. It depends on what items are available. It depends on what location you're in. It depends on what event you pull. It depends on what killer you're up against. It's just a lot of crazy shenanigans that happen in this game. And I do mean shenanigans. Oh yeah. So this game is just fun. It's just one of those games, easy to set up, get going, get the right cards, try your luck with some dice, see if you can't defeat the killer before, well, you know, he defeats all the victims and then you, because you're the final girl. You're the final one to go. That's just how it works, I guess. Final Girl, been really fun having this one. Number 14. Number 13, Space Empires 4X. Whew. The biggest surprise by far in 2.5 years of doing this is what happened when I posted my first playthrough of this game. Unbelievable how many views that playthrough got. I mean, it was up there with my Spirit Island videos, my Maze Night videos. I mean, those are my bread and butter, right? Those are my main games. Those are what I feature the most. Those are games you'll hear me talk about later, of course. But Space Empires 4X, the love for this game that is out there really surprised me. And I see why. This is a very, very cool game. It's definitely a new experience for me to be like, I'm going to play a game. Let me get my pencil out because I got to do a bunch of math. Whee! But it works. I don't know why it works. It just works. The puzzle that this game presents in trying to manage your resources, trying to explore in the calculated risk taking that it requires is very, very, very cool and very addictive. There's something about this game that when I finish playing, I just want to play again. And I just really like how it comes together. I like how the rules are kind of stacked on as you go in the rulebook. And no doubt, one of the reasons I'm so high in this game is because that rulebook in this game is really, really good. And I rarely say that. So thank you, GMT Games. Thank you. I do need to correct the record. If you did not see in the comments, I did say that the designer of this game is Roger McGowan because I couldn't find the designer's name while I was recording. And I read it in the rulebook. and I read the name for the lead artist. So Roger's a great guy, I'm sure, but he is not the designer of Space Empires 4X, which, yeah, the name's right there. Somehow, I don't know, man, I just missed it. So Jim Prone is the designer of Space Empires 4X. Thank you, Jim, for this great game. Now, I only have Space Empires 4X and I have Close Encounters, so we have a lot more to explore with just those 2 boxes, though. We have a ton to do with the Alien Empires scenario, especially. I'm still trying to get my hands on Replicators, and I know there's another expansion coming out for Space Empires 4X, which is supposed to complete the series, and hopefully that will be produced sometime by JMT Games either this year or next. But for now, Space Empires 4X, the base game, Close Encounters, what a cool experience. What a very different kind of game. Really, really love it. Number 13 on this list. Number 12, Madara. Well, I should say the whole name. Let's be official. Let's be formal here. We have Madara Unintentional Malum Act 1, or Madara. It's excellent. This game gets in my head and will not get out because I love so much of the mechanics of this game. Look, I've done a lot of campaign games. I've done dungeon crawlers. There was something about this game that is very special. And I'm really grateful to Succubus Publishing for sending me a review copy. It has been a tremendous addition to my solo gaming, and I'm very much looking forward to getting this on the channel soon. Now, why is it only 12? Because it's a little bit gushy for number 12, right? Like, I know it's hard. I'm trying to pace myself and how excited I get about some of these games because I got a little bit of a ways to go, right? There's only so much higher I can go up. And, you know, eventually I'll just be talking in falsetto and busting out all of your eardrums. Look, Madara's got some hurdles that really took me a while to start really engaging with it. The rulebook is terribly organized, at least as far as the way I learn games. This rulebook did me no favors. I could not, for the life of me, get certain things down, and flipping through that rulebook is an absolute nightmare because things just aren't where you think they should be. The game needs more player aids than it has, for sure, and someone could really go into that rulebook and really rearrange it so it actually makes more sense for someone just trying to learn how to play, for sure. But the good news is there are tons of Board Game Geek threads about Madara, and Brooklyn Lundberg has been very active in there, making sure people had answers to their questions. There have also been a lot of errata, so if you get this game, you're going to need to get the errata. I spent like 2 hours going through all the errata and making notes in my rulebook to make sure I had the right rules that I was working from, right? So that's another thing. Another thing about this game that was just a miss for me at first was the theme just did not grab me. This is an anime game in an anime inspired universe. I get some of that. I'm not an anime guy, so I might not be saying the exact right words here. So I apologize for that if I'm saying anything wrong, but this world did not grab me as much as I thought it should, because it's a super interesting idea, a place where no one ages and they're born on Earth and they go to this place and they have to learn how to survive and all this stuff, crazy stuff. And I love wacky off the wall stuff to some extent. So I really wanted to be engaged, but I just found the narrative so like adolescent angsty for that first chapter that I was like, what is this? I just don't care about these characters and I don't care about the story like I wanted to. That does get better the deeper you get in, and I'm really, really glad for that. Another thing that took me a moment, and I'm using moment very liberally, to really kind of be okay with. Be okay with also like a weird phrasing. There's no great way to say it, and I'm going to sound like a super prude, and that's fine, I guess, or it's not fine, or you don't think it's fine. I think it's fine, whatever. The art in this game for the female characters is just unnecessary in a lot of ways. And that's not what I'm looking for as a gamer. And that might be what a lot of people are looking for. And that's great for them. I just found it gratuitous to a level that was like, okay. I do love the art style, and I think you can differentiate that. I think the presentation for so much of this game is just eye candy, and it's really cool. The terrain is awesome. Some of the landscapes are awesome. There's so much to the pictures that I just absolutely love, and I'm intrigued by it. I'm captivated by it. I'm drawn in. And then it's like, whoa, that's a girl in a position that I just don't need to see. And that's speaking as a middle-aged dude who's just in a different stage of life than I'm guessing the design team was, and that's fine. So I think there is a place for it in our hobby. I just wish that some of the art for the women characters was toned down a bit. And that's just a personal preference. It was a barrier for me to really engage with this game on a deeper level because I just found it was so unnecessary to the extent that I did. Now that I have the rules and I muddled through that rule book, and now that I've engaged with the narrative, now that we're in that chapter 2 and we're moving on and things are getting more interesting, and now that I feel like I can play for several minutes at a time, a whole several minutes, without having to stop and look up a page and Google something because I got more of the keywords and it's more in my bones, so to speak. I am really, really digging this game and love what it does and love how the combat system works. And I love how the various characters can really be made into whatever you want them to be. And it's mind blowing to me just how much content there is. I love that freaking little red screen, like the decoder. I think it was a brilliant design choice. The fact that they give you the Foreteller app to read all the narrative, because there are pages of narrative that if I had to sit there and read it all, there's no way I would take the time to do all of that. But I can now listen to the Foreteller app, read the story for me while I'm cleaning up a scenario and setting up the next. I love the minis. I just love so much of the thoughtfulness that went into this game. And it's a lot. I mean, that rule structure is probably several degrees more complicated than it really needed to be. But this is the game that Brooklyn and his team wanted to make. And that's cool. And I'm digging it. I'm really, really into the Madara world and the Madara universe and the mechanics that came out. And I am very grateful that this was sent to me. Now, I do need to get this video on the channel. I've had this game for a while now, and it was one of those games that had I made a video of Madara a couple of months ago, it just wouldn't have been very good because I was still working through, like, is this game for me? Is this game a game I really like? Is this game a game that I want to invest a lot more time in? And I wasn't sure about that until the last few weeks when I've been able to come back and had time to, like, all right, let me go through that rule book again. Let me really get this down and let me really engage with the second chapter and the rest of the material that's there and see what this game has in store. And it's just great. It's really, really good. Super high on Madara. Would not be surprised if this moves up in my rankings in future years. But right now, 12 seems about spot on. So I'm going to leave it right there. Number 12, Madara, Unintentional Malum, Act 1. Number 11, knocking on the door of that top 10, but here we go with Descent, Legends of the Dark. For any of you who saw Jeremy Howard's top solo game, a 2021 video, I had a little bit of a cameo in there with a whole bunch of other content creators and non-content creators. Super thankful for Jeremy Howard for putting that together. If you don't know who Jeremy is, go check out Man vs. Meeple. He's on there all the time. Really cool dude in the industry. So here we have Descent, Legends of the Dark was my number 1 game from 2021 for solo gamers. And I really, really love this game. I loved it more every time I played through the campaign. And that to me says something. There was a depth there that I really liked in finding the ways to really level your character up the way you need so they'll be where they need to be so you have a chance to kind of win it. It's a big challenge. I was playing on heroic with 2 characters when I played solo. I played through this campaign with 2 friends. I'm in the middle of another campaign with another friend of mine who really just adores it. So my gaming group really took to Descent Legends of the Dark, and that's a huge sign for me and one of the reasons why I love it personally so much. There are definitely quirks, at least as far as a couple of weeks back. There is a scenario in the game that is just broken. There's a bug that hasn't been fixed. For a game from Fantasy Flight that you can fix this is an app. The fact that there doesn't seem to be the support that I would want for a game like this that costs this much, it does give me a little bit of pause about the Descent series going forward. I'm not sure if I'm going to be looking to get Act 2 or the mini expansions that they've already announced, but I don't think have hit market yet. And there was something at the end, and not getting into spoilers, but there was a way they handled the end that I was like, what? Like, come on, man. It just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. But knowing that's there, going through it again, I'm sure I will play this entire campaign multiple times from here on out. I like it that much, and I do find that experience so engaging. This game was really divisive when it came out. I know it got a lot of bad press from some notable content creators. All I can tell you is that when you get into this game and you get 5, 6, 7 scenarios in, that's really where it comes to life. Now, I could totally see someone saying, hey, that many hours of gameplay for this price point, I don't want to have to wait 5, 6 scenarios before I'm in a more engaging way to play this game. To me, the early scenarios of this game are pretty similar to the early scenarios of Jaws of the Lion, in that you have like this stacked way of being introduced to the game before the complexity really starts to ramp up and the challenge really goes from there. Some of the scenarios probably should have been shorter early on because of that. There were definitely some times I felt like the game tried to do too much, and there were definitely some scenarios that I feel like the designer erred on the side of an unreasonably long scenario for what some of them are. But the good thing is you could always save, you can come back. There are things that you can do to kind of make this fit into your life. But of course, like having to put everything away and take it back out, remember how much fatigue you had on what cards, that's not always doable, right? So this is not a game without its flaws. I just really love the gaming system, and that app is smooth, really amazing app, with the back button being what it is and the way it just crunches all the numbers for you, so you can do a really complicated attack that if you had to figure out all the math would take you 15, 20 seconds or more every time you did an attack on an enemy. And here the app's like, there you go. That's how much damage you did based on how many successes you rolled and based on what you were equipped with at the time and based on any traits that were active both from you and from the enemy that you're up against. And I love the way that just streamlines the dungeon crawl experience for a solo gamer especially. And honestly, it's just cool. The terrain's cool. So much about the production quality in this game is super, super cool. And I'm very glad to own it. And I will certainly be playing that campaign again. So number 11, just on the outside looking in, might get into the top 10. Probably never will, if I'm going to be honest. But really, really love this game for what it is. Descent Legends of the Dark. And here we are, the top 10, the toppest of 10s. And we're starting with number 10. Resident Evil 3, the board game. Whew. Yeah, this game, I did not think I was going to like this game nearly as much as I do. So I reached out to Steamforged Games about both Resident Evil 3 and Bard Song. And Steamforged Games, they did not have any retail copies yet of Bard Song, but they did have retail copies of Resident Evil 3. Now note, this is the expansion box, because me in my infinite wisdom, I am using the base box to store sleeves, and I wrote sleeves in big Sharpie on it. I was like, oh wait, now I can't even take a picture of the cover for when I do a playthrough. So here we are with the expansion box. Yes, the expansion box is actually bigger than the base game was. So it was a lot easier to fit everything in this box than the base game. And yeah, space is at a premium here in this basement of mine. So when I can combine boxes, I do. But Resident Evil 3, what a cool way to approach a dungeon crawly kind of thing, because you are so forced to really be careful about every gunshot you take and every stab attempt that you make. Every gunshot you take, every stab you make. No, I'm telling you, this game is freaking so cool. It was so cheesy, but I'm literally going around these maps and I'm like, oh my gosh, if I was running from zombies in this crazy house or down this crazy street, I would feel probably, incrementally way more so, but it does give you that anxiety. It's like, oh my gosh, the zombies are after me, and this freaking zombie dogs and these other crazy creatures that are kind of roaming about, and you're just trying to be careful about how you open doors and when you close them, and it's so cool. I play two-handed. I understand that's probably a little bit easier way to play because of the way the tension deck works and all that other stuff. So maybe I'll play it on more players in the future, but two-handed is a challenge, man, especially if those dice rolls are not going your way. The funny thing is, when I first started playing, I didn't totally understand all the symbols. Look, the rulebook for this one is good, very much not great, but good. But I didn't understand the symbols and I was misunderstanding what a certain symbol did. I thought it was killing things. It wasn't. It was just pushing them. Woo! Radically different game once I realized that. It's like, that's really hard. I was actually on my Patreon page. For those of you who don't know, I do a weekly blog on my Patreon page, and I'm like, I like it, but it feels a little easy. No, not easy. Very, very difficult. Very, very cool. You have to be very, very strategic about every single thing you do. I am super excited to get a playthrough of this on the channel sooner rather than later. I have already recorded a playthrough of a specific scenario. But this game is basically 12 scenarios, and you're basically trying to find some stuff. And then there's the expansion, which adds some scenarios at the end of the campaign, which I have not explored fully yet, but I am super excited to do that in the future. But that base game alone is sweet. The production quality is fine. The map tiles are great. Most of the components are great. There's a couple of choices they made that I'm like, that could have been a little bit better. The cards feel a little bit thin. Definitely sleeve those up right away because I felt like it was a necessary thing to do. But the gameplay is just great. I mean, I'm really, really jazzed about this game. As much as I love other zombie games, which you might hear about in the future, I am not a zombie movie guy. So the fact that I am like here loving a game like this the way I do was not totally expected. So it's funny to me. Like, this is not a game I would have purchased, but really thankful to Steamforge Games for getting the review copy out my way so I could find this gem of a game, because it just makes you approach a game in a very different way. This is not a see enemy, kill enemy, see enemy, kill enemy. It's like, see enemy, maybe I try to kill enemy, or maybe I just see if I can open door, but oh my gosh, there's fire and another enemy and a dog that is also a zombie. And some of the moments that are in this game are just top notch, right out of a movie. Fantastic. And I love it. So highly, highly recommend Resident Evil 3. What a way to start the top 10 of this list. Number 9, Champions of Horror. Champions of Horror is not the champions of U-Counts because the tribe has spoken again and said, no, Greg, we don't care what games you like. This one, not for us. Fine. I'll play this on my own along with Cthulhu Death May Die. This one is so cool though. I love the world it built. I love how zany the characters are. I wish it was better supported by the publisher, as I mentioned in my video that none of you watched, but that's fine. This game just has a lot to love and engage with and talk about eye candy. Woof! Just freaking colors everywhere and this and that and just zaniness. And it's great. It's super interesting. I love how you're managing your spirit. I love the way the cards work. Again, a card has two sides. There's an onboard side and an in-hand side. So when it's in your hand, guess what side you use? Right, the in-hand side. And then you play it. It goes where? On the board. And then you can use that ability and it flips. And that mechanic is so simple, but it's so satisfying. And so the way you're managing your hand of cards and managing your skills and managing your abilities, along with trying to get your spirit up to get that ultimate ability, and along with trying to follow the various objectives of whatever scenario that you're playing on these huge world tiles, and as enemies and allies and all these other quests start going up around you, it's just cool and fun and zany, and I enjoy the puzzle that it presents so much. So maybe watch my video if you didn't already, and maybe I'll get another scenario on the channel in the future and try again. Probably not. But this one's really good, and I really recommend it. Number 9, Champions of Horror. Number 8, oh, how the mighty have fallen. Arkham Horror, the card game. Now, this is the first game on the list that had been on a previous list since all the way back at number 22 with Aeon's End. Arkham Horror went from number 1 in my 2020 list, and that was from all my favorite games, right? That wasn't just a solo list. And it was number 4 last year. And now here it is at number 8. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One of them is that I've just enjoyed playing this game so much multiplayer recently that when I play solo, it's just not the same for me that it used to be when I just played this solo a ton, or I play it with my friend Steve. We play two-handed a ton. I've been playing a lot more three-handed. And seriously, my BGG stats, the most played game I have on there is Arkham Horror, the card game. And I don't keep track of my solo plays. I don't think I want to see that number. It's really high. So I just keep track of when I play with my friends. And Arkham Horror, the card game, is by far my most played game since I started keeping track years ago. But there are 2 reasons why Arkham has fallen for me. One is a question of the growing card pool for me and how I experience the game hasn't increased my enjoyment. For me, I find cards fall into three categories. One, they're duplicative. They already do something. I have another card that already does. I don't really need the new card. Two, they're just useless for how I play the game. Or three, they're very useful, but they're really useful. Like just cheese to the level that I don't want anything to do with, and I will not put you in my deck because I just find you make the game too easy. And that's fine for the game. I think there's a place in every game for something that might be overpowered. If you don't like it, just don't play with it. Great. I mean, especially a deck builder like this, you can build whatever deck you want. No one's saying you have to use the card, even if it is the optimal play. I don't build my decks optimally. I basically do drafts a lot, and I will intentionally avoid cards that I think are just too strong. So the extra card pool isn't enhancing gameplay for me. It's just giving me more to store, and it's just giving me more work to go through when I'm trying to build a deck. And now I have to cycle through 100 cards when there was just 50 not that long ago, right? So that's one problem I have. The real problem, though, if I'm going to be honest, is that out of the last 4 full cycles, I only really loved one. Innsmouth is great. It's such a good campaign. It's so interesting. It's really well put together. Every scenario there just delivers. But the 2 cycles before that and the cycle since, okay. Circle of Donuts is weighted down with so many rules and this and that, and exceptions and stuff to check. I just don't enjoy that play, especially solo, where it's really not scaled for solo very well. Dream Eaters B is amazing. Dream Eaters A is broken for solo play. Notoriously broken for solo play. Hopefully they'll fix that in the Return to and make Dream Eaters A really fun part of that campaign, because the way it is, there's just some problems with it. I mean, even with 2 or 3 players, it's just not that fun of a campaign. It's also not that great that you only have 3 periods in between scenarios for you to level up and play with the XP card. So it's a shorter experience, and it's something I really had a hard time engaging with, and just didn't find the replayability as fun as I did when I played through Carcosa a million times, or Forgotten Age, or Dunwich. Love those campaigns. They still deliver for me. So then we have Innsmouth, which is great. But after Innsmouth, what? We have Edge of the Earth, where the beginning was awesome. The end, I mean, I find those scenarios underdeveloped and just weak. The very end of that campaign is so unsatisfying and anticlimactic that I'm just like, what was that? How? Why? I don't understand why the quality is more hit and miss for me than it ever was in those early cycles. And maybe it's just, I just played so many scenarios. I know what I love. And when a scenario comes in that is like different, it just isn't hitting. But sometimes it's like a scenario that's similar to previous scenarios. So it's like, I know you can design this well. Why is this not as good? Why is this not as interesting? Why is it so cheesed that it doesn't even feel like a challenge? Like there's a part of Edge of the Earth and I'm like, oh, so we just walk down the hallway. That's it. Yay. What just happened? So I just don't love that. And I just don't find continuing to expand my collection has been great for how much I love this game. So I'm done with Arkham, other than side scenarios, which continue to be very good. Novellas, because I like the novellas, because it's nice to have alternate cards and it's nice to have a different investigator. And I'll get the return twos for the cycles I already have to complete those cycles. But that's it for me. And that's fine. And I think with me stopping to invest more in a direction that the game has gone that I haven't loved, I think I'll go back to enjoying Arkham again more once I know this is my game, this is my collection, and I'm no longer investing in this game, and I can stop evaluating new purchases and I can start just enjoying the game like I used to, because I still really will enjoy this game more for sure. I mean, what's calling to me now is going back to Forgotten Age and playing that campaign again. I haven't played that campaign true solo in forever. I love that campaign. It's my favorite one. Go back to Carcosa, play that true solo again. Start playing on hard mode now because the pool is bigger and the cards options are better. And some of the newer investigators are really freaking good compared to what you used to be dealing with. I mean, it's a joke, some of these investigators now, compared to what we started with. It's like, we went from Skins O'Toole to Trish Scarborough. It's like, One of these is a lot better than the other, dude. We went from Daisy Walker to Amanda Sharp. I mean, the upgrades there are undeniable in how good out of the box some of these new investigators are. And then you have a better card pool to go with it. It's just crazy. But it has been fun to see some of the new investigators. It has been fun to engage with some of the new cards. It has been really fun playing this game with my friends. So if this was a top games list, perhaps Arkham is still higher as it used to be. But, you know, on the solo games list, it's just not that game for me anymore. And that's crazy to me because it was that game for me for a long time, but other games have just surpassed it for me. And let's go talk about them now. So Arkham Horror, number 8. Number 7, Gaia Project. That's right. Here we are. Gaia Project was number 5 in 2020. It was number 5 in 2021. And it's number 7 in 2022. And there's no good reason for it. Unlike Arkham, where I basically just have a litany of complaints and why it's falling for me. Gaia just got bumped out by other great games, man. Gaia is so freaking good. I love that Automa so much. Oh my gosh, that Automa system just really sings for me. And the fact that you have 7 different Automas that all play differently, that make you feel like you're playing against a different kind of opponent, the way it does, and the variability of the board and the variability of the round boosters and the variability of the scoring tiles, all of it just makes such a rich, unique experience every time you play. And I still will have games where I'm like, oh my gosh, I am terrible at this game because of that, because it makes you think, it makes you have to reconsider what you would normally do because the game state this time, well, that's different. So can you adjust to it? Can you get the 150 to 175 that you normally score, Greg? Or are you going to do what you did when you played as the best gods and you had a terrible decision in the first round and you couldn't really get that game back after it fell off the rails? And I love the fact that that video happened on the channel. I mean, I would have liked to have, had that feather in my cap that I won with the best gods, but man, that game just does it to you. It just is going to humble you and make you realize that, oh, there is another level of this game that I haven't reached yet. Cool. I love a game that does that for me. All my games from here on out do that for me on some level. And Gaia Project was definitely one last year that I was in the middle of that in a huge way, and seeing the past year and how I've been able to kind of work my way through the different factions, seeing how my subscribers have engaged with those videos has been super rewarding. Easily one of the most rewarding things from the last year with this channel. I was really happy to go through that series. Not sure what I'm going to do with Gaia Project going forward for the channel. Definitely taking a break from it for now, but I have a feeling it'll be back because I do love this game. I'm going to for sure be playing this with friends and for sure be playing this on my own at times as well because it's such a great, great game. So Gaia Project, number 7. Number 6, Too Many Bones. Here we go. Chip Theory Games descended upon Gaia Project and was like, you get out of the way because we have other things that are going to go in front of you. So I had just gotten my Chip Theory Games shipment right before or right after I filmed this top 10 last year and just had not had the time to explore the goodies that I got. So here we are. I've had a lot of time to explore, but woo! I remember the first time I opened up this stupid rulebook and I was like, what the heck is going on? I got 12 pages in, had no clue what I just read, called my friend Dave and I was like, dude, what? How? He goes, I'll be over. We'll figure it out together. Because he had already played and Dave really helped get me straight on this game because, oh my gosh, that rulebook. It's so good. I mean, it's the best rulebook ever. I know there's some people who swear by how great that rulebook is. I don't see it. I've read it again. I still find it terrible, and it is what it is. But love the game so much. I love the zaniness. I love the gear locks. I love the world. It is just a game that always has the potential of delivering some really epic experiences in the way that most games don't. That said, I've been very vocal that one of my complaints about the game is how uneven the game experience can be, where sometimes everything goes right, you're just cruising, you get leveled up super quick, there isn't any challenge, you just kind of mow through baddies left and right, and you just get where you want to get. You get to the tyrant, you one-shot them, game over. And there are times that it's like, oh my gosh, I can't get out of day 2. And you just know that if you don't do well early, there is going to be this runaway loser problem. So that balancing does get out of whack, and you do need to play multiple games to have that variety of experience where it's like, oh my gosh, every battle came down to the end. It was super interesting. I really had to figure that out. I had to think through that. And that puzzle was so awesome. And you barely beat the tyrant. It's really satisfying, or you barely lose. And it's still really satisfying. And it was still really fun. And it was still really good to play. So I wish there was more of a predictability to what's going to happen when I put Too Many Bones on the table and I start an adventure and I go out after a tyrant. Now, I should say that I did get a review copy of Splice and Dice from Chip Theory Games. So thank you so much to everyone at Chip Theory Games for providing me with that review copy so I could further enhance my gameplay. The Splice and Dice baddies, whoo, they add a lot of curveballs. And I've been very serious on those videos with the Splice and Dice baddies that when I said it was the first time that I saw some of those baddies, I've never lied about that. It's like, oh, interesting. What the heck is this thing? And how am I going to deal with it? And that experience is fun for me. So I've really enjoyed having those baddies infused in my game. Looking forward to the other content that's coming with the Hobblemachers Victorium Kickstarter to add more of those experiences for the gameplay of Too Many Bones. A bunch more gear locks coming. Whew, it's going to be a lot, and it's going to be a lot of fun. This game has a way of delivering the fun for sure. So number 6, Too Many Bones. Number 5 is Cloudspire. Perhaps it's fitting that last year Gaia Project was my number 5, and that game was still kicking my butt all the time, because this is where I'm at with Cloudspire this year, that I am just starting to feel like I get it, that I'm actually playing the game at a somewhat high level and understanding what's going on. And every time, I'm sure, as I'm going through the factions slowly but surely, because that's how I like to experience games that are this sprawling, I like to take it slow, that I'm going to be humbled again and again and again, but at least I feel like I get the systems, I get what's going on, I understand the keywords, and I'm going to make less rules mistakes. And oof, do I wish that this rulebook was a little bit better. The same way I feel about the Too Many Bones rulebook. Coincidence? I think not. However, thank you so much to the comments on my Cloudspire videos that have really helped push me along. Again, very similar to where I was at with Gaia Project only a year ago. Just to see the growth that's possible as you play through games like this, and as you really get beyond just knowing the rules, but really understanding the gameplay, really understanding the mechanics, and being able to look at game state and know all the little rules and all the little permutations that are at play on a moment-to-moment basis. This game is just absolutely great. I really love the puzzles of the various scenarios. I've really loved the variety of the various scenarios, even within the same faction. I love it. A scenarios seem to be like, no, there's a solution here. Are you going to be able to discern it? Are you going to be able to figure it out? Are you going to be able to understand what units to recruit on what wave? Are you going to be able to use the market to your advantage? Are you going to be able to use the earthscapes that are available to you? Are you going to be able to use the various relics that you might be able to find that can help you along your way? Are you going to be able to strategically explore and take the risk when you need to at the right moment to give you a chance to get to that 3 renown, to finish that 3rd objective successfully? This game really delivers for me on a consistent basis. So really a lot of the consistency from game to game that I feel is lacking from Too Many Bones, that kind of keeps it back for me, I get with Cloudspire. I know that the consistency is going to be there. I know that when I put it out on the table and I take the time to set up a map, that I'm going to be engaged with a really interesting, intricate, involved, meaty puzzle every time. And I love that. I love the execution of this game. I love the variety. I love the thoughtfulness of each of the factions and their abilities and their skills and the different heroes. I love the joking nature of some of it and some of the really fun narrative moments that come out as you go through a scenario of Cloudspire. So I don't know if this is like a thing, if there's like a team Cloudspire versus team Too Many Bones. Like, I'm definitely team Cloudspire, but obviously love them both. 5 and 6, kind of where they fit for me in my gaming life. If either one of those two were to go up in future years, even with this insane amount of content that's coming for Too Many Bones, I think the smart money is on Cloudspire to continue to move up in my personal rankings as I engage with this game more and more and go back to scenarios I already beat and see if I can still figure out how to do it or maybe do it better than I've ever done and really explore the depths of what's possible in Cloudspire. So that's it. Number 5, Cloudspire. Number 4, Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. This is the one for me. If I'm playing solo, keep the big box away. It's like, this is what it is. I'm getting Frosthaven. I'm probably going to say the same thing with Frosthaven, but we'll see. I will be playing that campaign first and foremost with my 3 friends. We're all really excited for when that box finally arrives. But Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion, from a solo perspective, it's just so nice to have the book and to be able to set it up and get a couple scenarios out of the way and put it back away without all that comes with the big box of Gloomhaven. Jaws of the Lion is fantastic. I have played through this campaign multiple times. I did it again over the Christmas holiday where I was like, you know what? I want to play it again. Boom. Let me try it this time and up the difficulty one, because you can mess with the enemies and make them one level higher than you're supposed to be. And I played with Hatchet and the Demolitionist, and it had been a long time since I tried the Demolitionist and I could not get them to work for me. But woo, with the Hatchet, they were awesome. First time I played was with the Void Warden. I couldn't get that to go. Now I'm really anxious to try the Void Warden. Maybe I'll put her with the Red Guard and see what happens. I love the replayability of this campaign because it's so accessible, because there's only 15 to 20 scenarios and none of the scenarios are all that long relative to what you get with some of these other games. It's such a great package. It's interesting. The scenarios are unique and different. And I just really love how this game feels like a step up for me in so many ways from Gloomhaven, which I found sprawling and meandering and a lot of the scenarios samey and just not as engaging. This one was like, here's a tight story about this dude who's got some crazy ideas and some blood zealots, and you just kind of know who the bad guy is and you know why you're doing what you're doing, and you're going down certain directions that you at least have some conception of what the meta story going on is about. And that was something that really was lost to me in Gloomhaven. And yeah, the mechanics were always good, but I never loved Gloomhaven the way I love Jaws of the Lion, and I love the solo experience it provides. I think the characters are all super awesome. It still blows my mind that Isaac Childress is like, here's this side thing I'm going to do, and I want to make Gloomhaven more accessible, but here's these 4 characters, and I'm going to throw these 25 scenarios together, and boom, let's go to Target and see what happens. And it's bam, it's just like such a hit for me. Yeah, going back, when I play this campaign again, I probably will just take the shortcut rules and just bypass the first 5 scenarios. I do find that a little cumbersome because you already know how to play. So to be, handheld through all of that, but scenarios 3, 4, and 5 are actually interesting, good scenarios. So I kind of hate to do it, but either way, what a great campaign. What a great achievement. I love what it did for the hobby and getting into the big box stores and really helping people see whether a sprawling campaign dungeon crawler kind of game might be for them. It's such a relatively affordable price point for what you normally see in the hobby. So that's cool to me. This game will sit in my top 10 for a long time to come, no doubt. And here it is at number 4. Number 3, Dawn of the Zeds 3rd edition. Woo! Still love this game. I said that last year. I love this game. I meant it. I mean it now. This game is so freaking good. There are very few games that I just think about and I smile the way that Dawn of the Zeds makes me smile. Not even my 1 or 2. Dawn of the Zeds is just an amazing, amazing game. And another game, just like Space Empires 4X and Space Hulk Death Angel and Darkest Night 2nd edition, that I learned about through this channel. And I'm so appreciative that I did. This game is so freaking good. And Herman Luttman's a class act. He's often engaging on the forums, on Facebook. He often replies to this video when I post it on Board Game Geek, and I so appreciate that. What a game. It's so fun. It's so wacky. It's really hard to win with any kind of consistency, but that's part of what I love about it, because every time, though, it feels like you get this puzzle and you just have to figure out, is there a way I can make it work? And sometimes it's a super weapon. Sometimes there's going to be a bunch of hand-to-hand combat and managing your infection level. Sometimes it's going to be Colonel Kingman and his barricades. Sometimes there's going to be a freaking horse to the rescue. Sometimes there's going to be a dog whose bark just scares the zombies away. And now that I've thrown in everything with the Rumors and Rails expansion, there's just all these little nuggets that every game is different. It's a different movie every time. And I do mean movie because this game really is just a zombie movie that you're playing out. And sometimes you succeed and sometimes the zombies win and all of Farmingdale just falls into utter zombie chaos. And either way, it's just a blast. This game just delivers for me every time. I love the zaniness. I love the flavor. I love the art. I love the characters and I love the tropes. And yes, again, I don't love zombie movies. I just love this game and Resident Evil 3. And maybe I should watch zombie movies. I don't know, but it's more fun to play the games that are inspired by them as far as I'm concerned. So here we go. Victory Point Games with a huge home run with this one. I do not know where they go with this in the future. I personally hope there's not a deluxe edition that comes out like they did with Nemo's War, because I would probably buy it and I really don't need it. But for the sake of everyone who's looking for this game, who cannot find an affordable copy, I genuinely actually hope that there is a new edition in the future so more people can get a hand on this one who really want to try it. But I know it can be super hard to find for some people depending on where they live, etc., etc., etc. But this game is absolutely fantastic. My number 3, 2 years in a row. If you watched last year's video, are my number 1 and 2 different? No, they're not. But if you didn't, you're going to be surprised. Let's go on to it. Number 2 is Mage Knight. Always a bridesmaid, never the bride. And that is just the fate of Mage Knight when it comes to solo playthroughs. But still 1B, really. I mean, it's not even 2, it's 1B. It's so good. I love this freaking game. I have loved exploring more scenarios like I have in the last year. All these scenarios that just really give you a different experience and a different puzzle, and really 7 different puzzles, because everything is significantly different depending on which mage that you're playing with. And that's amazing. That's an amazing part of this game, and how the skills really do color what a game feels like and how you need to approach it to go along with the 2 unique cards to each mage that is in the game. But Mind's Liberation and Dungeon Lords and Life and Death and Realm of the Dead and Hidden Valley and all these various scenarios that give you a way to experience this game beyond the big 3, right? Volkaire's Quest, Volkaire's Return, and obviously Solo Conquest, which is, where you start because it's awesome, and where you come back to because it's awesome, because this game always delivers. What doesn't it deliver on? Well, okay, it has really no narrative, and that's a huge drawback. And I totally get when someone's like, I just found the game dry and overly complicated and it wasn't for me. Yes, I understand you, but it's so good. I mean, the mechanics just sing to me. Like when you're in it and you're in that huge battle with that huge garrison, and you have to figure out how to not get knocked out, how to pick off a couple of guys so you can come back again, or maybe you have the right cards in your hand and you can just one shot that entire garrison, but you have to still figure out every single block and every single point of attack matters, and using your units and disbanding units, because they're going to take the paralyzed wound, not you, unless of course that stupid freaking enemy not only is paralyzed, but they have assassin too, and that's the worst. And how do you make that work? And you have to figure out the resistances, and do you have the elemental attack to get that guy? Do you have Oh my gosh, I love that puzzle. And I just absolutely adore going through that work over and over and over again and putting those wounds out and saying, oh my gosh, there's 30 wounds on the table. But all right, well, if I do that, I can take those away. And if I do that, I can take those away. And if I do that, woo, it's coming together. Wow, why does it always happen this way? Like every game, there's a moment like, I don't know if this is going to work out. I didn't get the right artifact I wanted. I didn't get that spell before it got cycled out. I wasn't able to really get an advanced action that works for me. The unit offer is terrible. But so many times you can just piecemeal something together that works. And then there's times you can't. And it's still super engaging to try. And I just absolutely love the puzzle in this game and the depth of this game. And it'll always deliver. And anyone who has bounced off this game in the past, I always just encourage to maybe try it again, because there's something there. And yet there's not the great overarching narrative. There's not the understanding of why you're doing what you do. And I know that really is something that draws people into their games and makes it a more immersive experience. That Mage Knight, you have to do a little bit more of that work to get there, because the stories of Mage Knight is not the story of Mage Knight. It is the individual story of every game of Mage Knight that comes to the forefront as you have your mage, and they start as a little weak nothing that can barely defeat that cursed hag who happens to be chilling in the countryside tile right next to you. But then by the end, you're defeating not just the cursed hag, man, you're defeating 3 Draconum, 2 garrisons from the city, and 5 other orcs in Volkare's army, because it's bananas. How? It just happens. And it's crazy. And the character development in every single game of Mage Knight is so freaking good. And I absolutely love that experience. And it will never, ever, ever get old for me, because it's Mage Knight. But still not number 1. And number 2. Sorry, dude. But it's time. Number 1's coming up. And say it with me, class. Number 1, Spirit Island. It's good. That's it. I mean, there's part of me that's really tempted just to be like, it's good. Done. It's really good. I don't even know. Like, I've already said everything there is to be said. I have featured Spirit Island more than every other game on my channel, and I don't even think it's that close anymore. I mean, Mage Knight and Arkham were up there for a while. The Spirit Island just really blew past it with the 24 different spirits and all the various scenarios and the strength versus strength series and the like. I mean, there is still so much more to do with this game. When I was talking to the guys from the Kindred Spirit podcast, check them out everywhere you can find podcasts, we just laughed about how much content you can make out of this freaking game. I could easily run my entire channel with Spirit Island. I just love too many other games. I like the variety, but Spirit Island is the one that I know I can come back to whenever and just have a ridiculously fun game. I'm looking forward to doing more two-handed challenges. I'm looking forward to combining adversaries. I still have all of the aspects to go through for the basic spirits. And I know that Eric Royce is going to drop some amazing expansion not that far from now. So I best get on it, right? Because there's going to be more spirits and more, always more, right? This game is good. And if there's any designer that I trust to keep that consistency of good from what I've already seen, it is Eric Royce, because Branch of Claw is awesome. Jagged Earth is the best expansion ever published. It's just that good. Every spirit in there adds something to this game, makes you see this game from a different angle. They're not all my favorite. I don't love playing as all of them, but I am glad I have played as all of them. I am glad I've taken a deep dive to some level or another with all of them, because they've all enhanced my love for this game. This feeling that I have of this world that I'm exploring that just exists, and Eric Royce is slowly letting us see more and more and more of it through this game that is just absolutely fantastic. Spirit Island, easily my most played game in the last year and a half, 2 years, if you combine solo play plus playing with friends. Just so much game there, so much to absolutely love, so many experiences to be had, and it's good. We'll go back full circle, kids. Started, it's good. I end, it's good. Nothing else can possibly be said that I haven't already said between last year and this year. To be clear, for those keeping track at home, Spirit Island was number 3 in 2020. It was number 1 in 2021, and is now number 1 again in 2022. So I guess the only climber that we have in recent years is going to be Jaws of the Lion. If you went to my original top 10 video, the production quality is still garbage. So don't go there, or do, I don't know, whatever you want to do with your time, not mine. But I had Gloomhaven at number 8 on that one. That was pre Jaws of the Lion. And then Jaws of the Lion was 6 in my 2021 list of just solo games, and now has moved up to 4. We'll see if there are going to be any climbers next year, because any other overlap I had was going down. In some places like Scythe or Aeon's End, they went down quite a bit, obviously. But this was super fun. These lists are just meant to be fun. Please remember that in your comments, because sometimes, man, it is what it is. They're just games. What is it, Broken Meeple? It's only a game. Yeah, dude, it's only a freaking game. We're just out here to have a good time. If you're new to the channel, I hope you learned about a game or two that you might want to check out for yourself. Every single one of these games has either been on my channel at some point or will be on my channel at some point soon. To navigate my channel, I do have a playlist, a separate playlist for every single game that I have ever featured. So you go on my channel, go to playlist, find the game you're looking for. They are all there by title. I know, really crazy idea. I went by title because I felt that would be best for you. So you can find every game there with all the videos for that game are there. I also have a playlist for my top 10 list that I've done in the past, where I've done 2 for Maze Knight, 1 for Arkham, 1 for Spirit Island, and there's a couple others knocking around in there. There are a bunch of games that are not on this top 24 that I have featured. So you can see what else is out there. Under Falling Skies, I did a video of a long time ago. There was a bunch of Robinson Crusoe back in the day when I thought that game was good. Don't hate me. I'm sorry. It is what it is. I can't help myself. It's just not good. No. Okay. Crusoe, again, if I go to the book analogy, Crusoe is just a book that I really enjoyed for a very short time. Then I was like, yeah, not the series for me. I'm going to move on. It's like Harry Potter. I read the first 2 books and then I was done. I didn't have any interest in continuing. It's very similar to me with Crusoe, right? It just needed to go and it went. And it's now in a home for someone who will like it more than I ever will going forward, I'm sure. So it's good for everybody. Win-win. Thank you so much to all my patrons who have dealt with my craziness and the new games, who have kept this channel growing in a very real way through some technology upgrades, with a new microphone, with a new camera, through some editing experiments, through some new games, some games that I featured that I'm like, it wasn't that great. Probably could have saved that week for something else, but it just allowed me to experiment and explore and have still supported this channel through it all. And I really do appreciate all that support. If you are interested in supporting this channel, if you want to see more of my content, if you like the content of mine that you have already seen, please go on my Patreon page. I will put a link to my Patreon page in the description below. See if there's a tier of support that makes sense for you. Either way, the likes, the comments, the subscriptions, telling your friends who are solo gamers, might be interested in solo gaming, how awesome solo playthroughs is. That'd be really, really appreciated by me as I continue to grow this channel and try to expand in the months and years to come. So that's really it. Thank you so much. This was fun for me. I hope it was fun for you. And until next time, happy gaming.